Dr. Mohanlal Agarval is the former professor of marketing, innovation, and management, IIM Lucknow, XLRI Jamshedpur, and California State University, USA. He is the president of INDO Gulf Marketing Association. He is US Fulbright Fellow, Boston, EFMD Fellow, Paris, and British Council Fellow, London. In 2019, he was ranked among the 251 most fabulous global education leader. Welcome, Dr. Mohan Agarwal, on our show. You have heard what Dr. C.V. Anand Bose as well as Dr. P.K. Brahman mentioned. They have agreed on that is the same thing. They said that the India is the winner because whatsoever the result will come, whether Republican Party or the Democratic Party, whosoever will win, the India, they cannot neglect India, and Indian position is firm. And according to Dr. Bose, India will be the global leader. According to Dr. Abraham, India's position is firm. It makes no difference whosoever is going to win. But now we would like to know, because you have worked in USA, you stayed there so long, so you have more insight, on-site experience. So we would like to know from you, US election, and Indo-American relation. Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lal, for assembling such a wonderful galaxy of speakers like, Dr. Anand Bose, and of course, Dr. Abraham, and I'm looking forward to Dr. Arun also. Probably many of us do not remember that it was FDR, President Roosevelt, during the Second World War. He was the person who spoke first about India's independence from British regime. Not many people know that part. And their goal was only from the independence of freedom, love that they have for the entire world. Of course, it was Churchill who was very, very opposed to the idea. And he was so opposed to them that he even told Roosevelt that if you put more pressure, then I will resign. So as a result, Roosevelt backed off. But the fact of the matter is that the US was in favor of India even in the 40s when we were struggling. Thereafter things changed because of 1942 Quit India movement, and then many other things happened. And US was all the time with us. Now, when we look at the US and India, in general, or rather I would say on a scale of knowing or not knowing, it is the democratic presidents who have helped India the most. Possibly the best president for India until 2000 was JFK or JF Kennedy. He did so much for India in terms of everything that he almost was in love with India. And not only that, he even sent his wife, a very, very wonderful, charming lady, first lady, to India. And so much so that even Nehru at that time was so much smitten by her visit to India that he kept a picture of hers in his, private collection, and story goes like that. But I'm not going there. I'm going about the contribution of the presidents of US to the country that we have based on their ideology. And probably the worst president was Nixon, probably. To some extent, I would say that Lyndon Johnson was also not so good because of the ideological and personal reasons. But it was Nixon who was probably the villain or the chief villain as far as the relationship between India and this is concerned. And surprise, surprise, the relationship between US and India never went to the height that we have, even in the regime of Clinton. Even Clinton didn't do so much for India as probably thereafter things started, getting done. Some of you may remember that he had put an assistant secretary here, and she was very much against it. And not only she was against us, but she even put the Kashmir problem also as one of the questions. And therefore, it was a very, very tough time for India that they were dealing with this. So naturally, India had to go to USSR at that particular time. But like, everywhere after 1991, then things started changing. So I would put the election, parties, and inner relations into two phases. Phase one will be one up to 2000, and thereafter I will put it after 2000. So up to 2000, I strongly believe it was ideology which was making India, to some extent, a power play, a game of the presidents, depending on which party they came from. And in general, Democrats helped most in general. Of course, the other Republicans also helped to some extent, but not to that extent as JF Kennedy was there. Even Carter, when he came, and when Morarji Desai and Carter, they both were very much, close to each other because of the democracy and all that. Even then, Carter wasn't able to help us that much as we did. And then, as I mentioned already, that this, lady Rebecca came in the regime of who was a friend of Clinton, as it was called, but still, she created a lot of problems for us. I think the best president so far in terms of Indian relations has been President Bush. The second Bush, not the first Bush, but the second Bush. That when he came from 2000 to 2008, he took Indian and US relations to a height nobody had even seen it before. He was almost, they said he was almost in love with the prime minister at that time, Dr. Manmohan Singh. And Manmohan Singh became almost like his finance secretary of Bush, that Bush will many times consult him on economic matters and all. So it will be wrong to say that India is India, doesn't matter whether you are Republican or whosoever wins. It is wrong to say that that kind of thing will be like that. There are two words which are defining India today, India and US relations. Everybody is saying one word, I am saying two words. And those two words are India and China. Both of them are quoting India, not only for India what India is, but also because of China what it is trying to be. And India is becoming like a hedging for them. A hedging where they are putting things here in order to counter China from that point of view. So long as China remains what it is, India will also gain importance. And I'm sorry to say this, it will happen, whether we like it or not. Of course, India is India. Of course, Indian importance will also be playing there. But it will be a mistake to think that Indian importance alone is sufficient to drive the Indo-Pak relations, Indo-US relations, because to that extent, China will be a factor. And as China is going in a very, very belligerent direction, I think Indian influence will also be going up, or at least consideration in their part, because US would not like at all that China be what it wants to be, and therefore it will do everything, including doing many things for India. So this is the first part. The second thing which I would like to say here is that in this particular century, the relationship between India and US has moved on from party affiliations to person affiliations. So if you look into the person affiliations, first it was Bush, who was Republic, then Obama, who was obviously a Democrat, and then again Trump, who is Republic. And if you see that, therefore, the relationship between Modi and Trump is not because of ideological thing, but it is because of personal things. So, to my mind, persona will play the role rather than ideology. And to my mind, therefore, I would say that India will continue to be beneficiary if persons are right and if persons are able to play to that. Now, obviously, there is no misunderstanding at all that India will remain on the high agenda because of the population, because of the democracy, because of the education that we have, because of the educated workforce we have. All those kind of things will continue to make India great in its own right. But do not forget that this own right is also at this particular moment supplemented by China being there. Now the question is that how relations between India and US will develop as we are moving going forward. In my opinion, three letters or three words will define. Number one will be employment opportunities. Number two will be education. And number three will be entrepreneurship. Let me take education first, being from that particular field. If you look into the educational relations between India, this is one of the best defining relationships in the world. All of us remember how much we have benefited from what is known as Fulbright Scholarship or Fulbright Program, which now is called Nehru Fulbright Program. I'm one of the beneficiaries of that. And I know that how great that particular program is. Now that program is election neutral. It has got nothing to do with republics or Democrat or whatever. That program will continue to happen and will produce the best people from there. The second is educational inputs or people that they are getting from India. Like for instance, at this particular moment, in spite of everything, 200,000 Indian students are there in the US. 200,000. Of course, this particular thing is declining because of Trump and many other things. And what is the loss of US is becoming the gain of Canada in terms of students going there, because they are receiving the number in much increasing number. But still India and China are the two biggest contributors of students to universities, business schools, technical universities in US. Therefore, they will need all that kind of thing. In fact, already many universities in US are facing the problem of Indians not coming to them because of COVID and because of many other geopolitical situations. The second part, as I had mentioned, is employment. Without doubt that Indian population is the most suited population for them in terms of employment. That is why this work visa, H1 visa, and all those kind of visas became such a big issue, both for every president, whether it is Trump or whether it is Obama or whether it is Bush. Because Indian population or Indian people are the best employment or employees for them in terms of English education, in terms of technical education, in terms of hard work, as well as in terms of flexibility. All those things make Indian worker the best worker for them. Then comes the third part, which I mentioned, entrepreneurship. Probably many of us know, probably we do not know, and that is that, most of the franchises, this one is held by Indians, mostly Gujaratis. And therefore, entrepreneurship is being provided, whether it is Dunkin' Donuts or whether it is, the valley in California, each and everything being provided by Indians. Hotmail was created by an Indian. If you look into many of the technical things, whether it is Google or whether it is Microsoft, Indians are playing a very big role. Now, which means that the receiver part, which we very embarrassingly remembered, PL 480, food and this and that, I think that particular situation now has changed from a receiver to a contributor. And now Indians have become contributors rather than with a begging bowl in their hands because of the entrepreneurship. And I think to that extent, Dr. Bose is right, that affluence has changed the things rather than, so influence comes also with money. So influence, affluence, both are playing a role. If I talk about education sector, Indians are the second largest number of teachers in American business schools, whether it is Harvard or whether it is MIT or others. You must have already heard that the third dean from in Harvard has come from India, from our IIM and other places. So which means that we are playing the role of influencer also. Let's not talk about affluence, because that will, to some extent, I would say, diminish the role that they are playing. So influence, affluence, entrepreneurship, education. Now that is where I would say. Now he said that it doesn't make a difference in terms of the difference because we are just 1%. Actually, it is not just 1% only. It is also the kind of value and power which we have. And that particular thing will make the difference. So to conclude, the point which I'm trying to make is that Indo-US relations will definitely be, affected by the elections. Of course, everywhere the relationships will depend upon the mutuality of interest, and India will definitely make some, but India definitely has to gain and lose in terms of the election that we will have result, whether it is Biden or not, because Biden will not be, and I can assure you, will not be very much warm to India, because he will not see China as one of the adversaries. He will be seeing it more as a collaborator or something. Well, to that particular extent, I would say that Trump will also be having a different game to play if he's elected, God forbid. But still, all that particular thing will happen. So only thing which I'm saying is we have become election neutral. We have become personality oriented. We have our own importance, but we also have a geopolitical factor in our favor, and that is China. So to that extent, I think which will be the benefit to us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Agrawal, for giving the details. And Dr. Agrawal views are a bit different from Dr. Bose as well as from Dr. Abraham, because what Dr. Agrawal says, he says it will make a difference if the Republican or the Democrat, whosoever will win. Definitely, it will be different. He has given the details, which I would not like to now give in because of the paucity of the time. But his crux is that if the Democratic will come or Mr. Biden will come, definitely his inclination for India will not that much, which is going to be of the Trump, because it is a personality. He says now the personality plays more role, like Mr. Trump's and his relationship with our honorable Prime Minister is there. So he believes that the Indian-US relationship will definitely be affected by the person who is going to win. And so we have to wait for the election results, then only we'll come to know.